What is up, everyone? Today I have a special guest on the channel, and her name is Melissa. We actually had a conversation before, but due to technical difficulties, we're not able to capture that conversation, which I was a little bit disappointed in, but I'm very stoked to have her back and discuss some different types of attachment theories as well as how we our internal things that are going on with us affect our ability to bring different things into our lives. And I think that she'll have a lot to shed on that, especially when it comes to relationships. So I'm very excited to have her on. If you want to give, yeah, a quick
For
over.
sure. So my
Yeah.
name's Mellisa Baisi. I'm a registered psychologist and attachment coach, and I practice up in Canada. Um, yeah, I love how we can look at attachment styles and attachment theory and start to bridge it into manifesting and being able to call in SPs and money and better career options and all of that kind of stuff. So I think we'll probably get into all of that today.
Yeah, perfect. So like I said, just before here, so I noticed that you talked about when it comes to relationships, there's anxious attachment styles and avoidant attachment styles. And people tend to, in your experience, flip flop back and forth between those two, or how do you see those playing out when it comes to relationships?
Well, people can flip-flop between the two, especially if it's with different partners.
Mm-hmm.
So if they find themselves anxious in one relationship, if they get into another relationship where their partner is more anxious, then they might become more avoidant. Um, but oftentimes they have a pretty stable way of behaving in a relationship with the same person. It can go back and forth, but that's not necessarily an unhealthy thing. If it's going if it's if there's a little bit of a shift between in the relationship dynamic, one person's just a little bit more interested than the other, and then sometimes the other is just a little bit more interested than this one. That can be a normal and healthy thing. It's just when we have those really big swings back and forth and it starts to dysregulate the nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting actually that you mentioned and even like pointed out the swing right there because
Mhm.
in a couple of recent videos that I've done, I've discussed a kind of concept which I would illustrate and describe as a pendulum. And I think that I've used this example when describing what we want. I think when it comes to our goals, when it comes to what it is that we want in our lives, we want to capture this feeling of naturalness that Neville Goddard has talked about, that other people have mentioned.
Mhm.
And what I would describe that as is this kind of a stable nervous system, a stable approach, a kind of calm approach where you're just centered and you're like, yeah, this is, I want to do this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to go after this and I'm going to get it. And at the either side of that, of this pendulum, you have this really anxious need for something where you need it so badly. And then the other side, which is avoidant, which says, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. I don't know if I deserve this. And this thing is like it's on a pedestal, and you're putting it. And it could be for many things, but one of the examples that I've used actually is when you think about a guy at a bar and he wants to go talk to a girl, right? And on one hand, you got that guy that needs it so bad and he's holding on like this and
Mhm.
he wants that validation from her. He's like, I need her to say yes, I need this to work. And the other guy that's too scared to approach it because he's almost like self-defeated inside internally before he even wants to go up and say anything. And
Mhm.
the thing that you actually see though that will actually work is the guy that's like comfortable in his own skin goes up and just chat, like starts talking, and it doesn't even matter. He doesn't make it overly excited about it, and he's not overly fearful either. And I think that can also be likened to a fight or flight. Uh, it's like you're fighting with reality on one hand and then fleeing on the other hand.
Yeah.
You, there's a little bit of like is that background noise? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There's like landscaping going on outside.
it's all good. Yeah, it happens for sure. Um, do you? So I know that you and Tim had mentioned something called IFS in your previous interview.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so that's internal family systems. And what that is it looks at the whole of a person and looks at all of their different parts as part
Mm-hmm.
of the whole. So we all have different parts inside of us that play different roles, that have different goals, that have different desires. And you know, when you have an internal conflict, you have two parts vying for getting their
Yeah.
various need met. So
Mm-hmm.
internal family systems is a way of teaching you how to go in and work with the different parts to get them all on the same page so that you can kind of move fully into your desired outcome. Does that
Oh,
make
that's
sense?
cool. That's cool. Yeah. So how would you delineate those different parts?
So the way I do it with people is I get them to feel into their physical body first. And oftentimes for anxiety, for instance, you're going to feel like a heaviness in the chest
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of pit in your stomach.
Right.
And you go in and you feel into those physical sensations, and then you start to dialogue with the part of your body that is having that physical sensation. So just kind of asking it, like letting it know, like, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, what's going on for you? And oftentimes that part will speak back to you. It helps to have somebody leading you through it, but you can certainly do it on your own. I do it on my own all the time, and I teach my clients how to do it on their own as well.
And so by doing that, kind of engaging with it, you find that it then is able to loosen up a bit rather than having that heavy tension.
Hmm.
That's cool. It's another thing that I had kind of been discussing too, another idea that there's these different parts of ourselves and they need to be working in alignment because when you have, let's say, your subconscious and your conscious mind or your will and your imagination, that's another thing that Tim has talked about, and they're in conflict with each other,
Hmm.
it's not going to be it's going to be very hard for and maybe impossible for your will to beat your imagination. And let's using the example of tennis, if you keep imagining that you're going to hit the ball out, but you want and you're struggling and straining and gripping onto that racket so hard, but you see that happen, right? You see that happen even with the pros, is that once they get into their head and they start having those self-defeating thoughts, no matter how good they are, they might have hit it in practice every single time. They might have hit their serves in, right? But they start to
Hmm.
double fault in the
Hmm.
match because of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard Tim talk about that as well, is that the imagination, it's a concept from another guy named Emile Coué, the imagination can't beat the will when they're at odds with each other. They have to be in alignment with each other, and that's really when you'll start to see success.
Yeah, and that's what internal family systems does is it works with those self-defeating thoughts and it seeks to find out what exactly their purpose for being there is because we don't really have any parts inside of us that are against us.
Hmm.
All of our parts are trying to work for us. Just sometimes they're misguided. They're like misguided children. And they're trying to, so say you have a self-defeating thought telling you you can't do it, don't even bother. That part is trying to protect you from, say, humiliation or failure by saying, don't bother, don't do this. And so what you want to do is work with that part and just let it know, like, hey, you know what? Even if even if I get humiliated, even if I fail at this, I'm still here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave you on your own. And those feelings of failure or humiliation, I'm going to be there with you through that so you won't have to experience it alone. And just letting those parts know that you're going to be there with them through any kind of uncomfortable situation lets them calm down and lets them kind of step back and allows you to go forward into the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. I mean, I do think that and would is that one of the primary ways that you kind of like tools you use to sorry, like stabilize the nervous system essentially?
Absolutely. Internal family systems is my go-to for sure.
Okay.
But also understanding the different parts of the nervous system and how the nervous system works helps people a lot to bring their nervous system into a state of regulation and calm, like you were talking about earlier.
Hmm. Um, Yeah, so like understanding like the physiological aspects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can explain a little bit of that right now
Sure,
if
sure,
you're
yeah.
open to
That
that.
sounds
Okay.
good, yeah.
So we have what's called the vagus nerve, and it's the longest nerve in our body, and it runs from the base of our spine down to the base of the base of our brain down to the base of our spine.
Hmm.
And it hits every major artery along the way. So it's really connected to everything. So when that nerve is activated up here in kind of the throat area, it's called the ventral activation. And that is a calm, connected state where we're able to communicate with others, we're able to get our needs met. It's where we want to be activated most of the time. Then you move down into the middle of the spine, and that's called the sympathetic activation, and that's the fight or flight activation. That's an anxious activation. And then you move to the base of the spine, and that's called the dorsal activation, and that is a freeze activation. So that's kind of a down, depressed activation. So when you look at the nervous system, you're always wanting to kind of move your way up the ladder and get back into that ventral activation. And there's lots of different things you can do. You can do like cold plunges, you can sing or hum, you can chant, meditate. So many different things you can do to get your vagus nerve up here activated.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I like that. I know I think we actually I brought him up last time, but Wim Hof has like breath work. He does the cold plunges and stuff. You've heard of
Yep,
him.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I know that's one way like of doing it with the breath work. There's also Jose Silva, the Silva method. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
He has like a guided meditation, but I think any sort of meditative practice where you relax, feel those different parts of your body, kind of do a body scan,
Hmm.
relaxing can be helpful. Do you have, as far as that goes, getting up into that vagus or ventral area, do you have a specific practice that you tend to favor?
I really like internal family systems. I
Hmm.
that is my go-to, and just working with those different parts, because when those parts feel heard and understood and validated, it allows you to move back up into a ventral activation.
And
Yes.
essentially, like that could be if you feel the knot in your stomach, let's say,
Yep.
you're kind of begin to speak to it and say, "Hey, look, like I got you. I'm here for you. If there's anything that you want to bring up," because it's almost like then you're able to bring out what otherwise would have been underneath in the subconscious, right? Buried. And it's like
Hmm.
now by talking and engaging with that part of yourself, you're able to
Hmm.
bring those things to the surface. That's usually what happens.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you heard of EFT as well? Emotional freedom technique. It's like
I
a
have, yeah.
tapping thing. You
Yep.
haven't you have you used that or?
I don't actually use it with my patients. I've tried it myself, and I think it's okay. I think that it has its benefits and its helpfulness in
Hmm.
its own way. It's not really something that's a go-to for me, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just, I like it makes me think of every single thing that I've ever heard of to do this, and that was one of them. Um, so yeah, I mean, what are, I guess, when it comes to relationships and when it comes to the people that you see that are dealing with relationship issues, what are some of the more common issues that you see? Um,
So often I have people who have an anxious attachment style, and they come in and they're struggling with their avoidant partner. So the anxious attachment style is the one that's kind of needy, feeling a little bit desperate, feeling like, why can't I get them to show me the love that I deserve? Where are they? What are they doing? Who are they talking to? All of that kind of stuff. I want more of their time. So that's the anxious attachment style. And then the avoidant attachment style is more like, back off, back up. This is too much. I can't handle all this emotionality. Like, give me my space. And so the anxious and the avoidance often pair up. They have an attraction to each other. And so people with the anxious attachment style are going to be coming in to see me often. And then what
yeah,
we are working to do is get their attachment style into a secure attachment style. And when they go into a secure attachment style, they can often pull their partner up into a secure attachment style. And I think that's very in line with what Neville would say around us creating our own reality. When we shift our internal state, we have the opportunity to be able to shift those around us, which isn't a super popular opinion amongst psychologists that we can change other people, but certainly in the Neville community, we do believe that.
Yeah, and again, that's one thing that's so cool about this discussion is bridging those ideas together because if people are having success with this, it's like why ignore that? You know, it has to be like a full like holistic approach. And yeah, I've heard other people discuss this as well. I know there's a guy on YouTube named Dylan James, and he specializes in relationships, and he talks about this. He uses the terms anxious attachment as well, but I often describe him talking about like, look, if you're coming from the secure state,
Mm-hmm.
where you feel like whole and complete within yourself, or whatever terminology you want to use, but you feel good about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that is only going to then affect the people, like draw people to you because somebody with their own cup full is then able to kind of like pour over. And you know, if you're constantly in that state where you just need validation, you need attention from other people, yeah, like it may work from time to time. You may run into those people that, like you said, like polar opposites attract,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to cause problems down the road. It's not sustainable. It's gonna be like a rough, tough path that you're carving out for yourself, I think, going
Mm-hmm.
about it that way. And then by doing that, like yeah, if you feel really good and are generating your own secure state within yourself, and that's where some I think self-help stuff can come in. If you're feeling bad within your body, being physically active, I think going to the gym. I know that in certain aspects, when I've felt like depressed, like for example during quarantine, is a recent example that I can think of. It's like getting into your body, moving your body, and feeling good about yourself, eating the right foods. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just going to very basic things that make you feel better within yourself, and then you're becoming now a version of yourself that is attractive to people in general. Um,
100%.
yeah. So when you're helping these people, so I guess that secure state, are people able, because this, do you find that, I think I heard you mention this before, that once you're able to get people to kind of come at this from a more secure place, that ends up kind of automatically repairing or helping them in their relationship?
Yeah. So we're wanting to move from an insecure attachment style into a secure attachment style. And no matter if you're anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, those are the three insecure attachment styles. You're going to be doing the same work to be moving into a secure attachment style. And that work is to become your own secure base. So it's to be able to go inward, regulate your nervous system, be able to feel into what the different parts are that are flared up, and to be working with those flared up parts and bringing them back into regulation, back into a calm, connected state.
Yeah. How would you describe disorganized?
Disorganized is a little bit of a mixture of both, but it comes from like pretty severe trauma. So
Mm-hmm.
it wants to be close, yet as soon as it gets closeness, it pushes away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's got some anxious and avoidant tendencies in it. It's
Yeah,
only
I think that's
6%. What were
it's
you
some
gonna
less
say?
often. I think that's kind
Yeah.
of what I was imagining when I brought it up first about flip-flopping back and forth. Um,
The disorganized
yeah. Yeah, it's
attack.
like kind of what I was picturing because I think that there are certain things like uh for me, for example, just to open up like on a more personal note here, I think that I for a long time I'm a creative person. I've always been creative. And it used to be with acting, then it was with art, and then later on in high school it was music. And for a long time I've made music, but I think that with having creative success with my music,
Hmm.
have this sort of disorganized. attachment style with it, because I think for
Mhm.
certain spurts I need it so bad, like I want it to work so bad. Um, as an artist who makes music, it's like you make your music, but in this kind of day and age where you promote your stuff on social media, or there's like various avenues, it is much easier to promote it and to get it heard, but it's so saturated that it's kind of hard for it to find its path, for it to then be get exposure. And so I think like with that discouragement of that comes the avoidant. And so
Mm.
it kind of goes back and forth, and it's something for me that I've had a hard time detaching around and kind of just doing in that calm state. Like, yeah, I'm in a very relaxed manner and put my music out. And I tend to more, I think, flip flop back and forth between those, which is interesting to
Yeah,
me.
that is interesting. So I would probably ask you, how are you applying Neville's teachings to this dilemma?
You know, this, it's interesting. It's like I think as many as other people probably do, kind of compartmentalize and kind of avoid the parts of ourselves or the aspects where we are struggling with more.
Hmm.
Whereas maybe I don't find it as hard to do, to have that balance when it comes to a relationship or when it comes to financial situations. But particularly with this creative, like, success that I kind of hold dearly and value, it's been hard to, I think, apply his teachings. I think that I
Mm.
I could like sit there and imagine success, but I think that what happens when I do that is that I then enter into that kind of attached state where I'm holding on like this. So I may
Hmm.
go and do the visualization. I may do the sats. I may be really relaxed during it, but
Hmm.
then when it comes time to actually promote it or whatever, I'm like very specific. I'm very like, if it's not this way, then like I can't do it at all. Like, I'll give you an example, which is very, it's personal, but it is what it is. It's like I had this song and I recorded this song a while ago. It was actually ready to be released quite a while ago. My engineer was asking me, like, when are you going to release the song? When are you going to release the song? And the song has to do with a particular car. It's called a G Wagon. It's like a Mercedes Benz, those trucks.
Yeah.
And I had actually been in contact with a car rental place around here. It wasn't available. There was all these different things, but I was very set on having that car for my visual promotion for this video.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my partner Devin about this, and she's just like, like, you don't really need to have that to release the song. Like, you can release the song, and down the line, if you do have that opportunity to get the G Wagon, or create this video or whatever for promotion, you can do that. But you don't have to like set this hard limit on yourself that it has to be this certain way, because now it's been time is passing continually, and I still haven't
Mhm.
released a song, right? And I think it's an important kind of lesson that can be extrapolated to other situations. A lot of people have, like, with their relationship, they're like, I only want to meet somebody a certain way. I was talking
Mhm.
to a guy that I actually had interviewed before, and he mentioned to me that he does not want to use dating apps. And I'm just like, well, we're in 2023 right now. Like, a lot of people are using dating apps. You're actually cutting yourself off from a lot of opportunity. If you are looking for a girlfriend, if you are wanting to put yourself out there, you've got to put yourself out there. Whether you're going to the bars, whether you're going and talking to, striking up conversations with women throughout your day, or dating apps, it has to come from somewhere. It's not like they're just going to start lining up at your front door.
Mm.
um, I'm curious what your take is on this whole situation I just described with my music, and how you think, if you were actually in my shoes, do you like, how does that sound to you? Do you think that I'm placing too many strict limitations on it? Do you think that um being more open, like, how would you go about, I guess, addressing this dilemma?
Well, what I would do is I would ask you, I would dig more into the different parts of you that are not wanting to release this song until you get this G-Wagon, and I would interview them a little bit more. I'm sure as you talk about it, you probably feel a physical sensation in your body. Am I
Mm-hmm.
right? Where do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like in my solar plexus area,
Mm-hmm.
this just like, I guess you could call it tension
Yeah, like an unease.
in
Yeah,
a dis-ease. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I would go in towards that part of you and let it know that you're there and just ask it like, what are you afraid of if I release this song? You could even do it right now and I'm sure you'd get something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the first thing that comes to mind or the first like reply I get,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
inner voice kind of is just like, well, it's if you don't do it right, it's not going to work. Or if you don't do it right, nobody's going to hear the song, like nobody's going to care. And if it's not good enough, whatever it is that you're putting out, um, you're going to feel bad. Like you're going to it's experience like that failure feeling or that feeling that you get when it's just like, yeah, like nobody, I put out this art because I think what happens with me and other creative people as well is like you get attached to your art because it's like you. Like I was watching Kitchen Nightmares and that show with Gordon Ramsay, and it's
Yeah.
kind of wild to watch that, to see how attached these people are to their way that they want to craft the food when everybody's telling them like, look, like we need to change the food, it's not working. But that's what happens as an artist. You're very, because you feel like it's you put your heart and soul into it. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
an author or somebody writing a book. It's, you take it much more personally than, let's say, if it was like a, my business or a I also I do real estate, right? So if something was going on wonky in the real estate area, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be upset about it. Probably I'm gonna be like, okay, what do I need to do to fix this issue? I'm gonna handle it in that much more calm way because I'm not so attached to it. I don't care. It's not so personal to me. Like it's not my music that I created, that I feel like came from me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, yeah.
So I would be with that part that feels like failure is a potential if you don't do it the way that you want to do it. And I would also honor that because you have a creative, artistic way that you want to do this. So I would probably either saturate myself in one of two results, either saturating myself in the end result of releasing the song and having it be wildly successful, or saturate myself in the end result. You want a G Wagon for your music, right? For your
Yeah. Yeah, for the
video?
video. Yeah, for the
Yeah.
video, exactly.
So I'd either saturate myself in the end result of getting this G Wagon, or I'd saturate myself in the end result of having this song be wildly successful. Or you could do both, but one is conditional on the G Wagon is kind of paring it
Hmm.
down. And Neville says we can have whatever we want. So if this is what you're feeling is absolutely essential for your song getting out there and being successful, then I would saturate myself in the end result of getting that G Wagon however it looks and having it come in quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And experiencing the song being successful too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it sounds
Yeah.
like for you, this G-Wagon needs to be part of the video. It's a creative element that needs to be there. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel internally about it, but then it's like I struggle with it because I'm like, yeah, my partner, she's got a point. It's like because I'll see myself do that. I've done that in the past, where it's just like there was another video that I wanted to release quite a while ago actually, and I had this vision for it, and it was another specific actually car for the video, funny enough, that we needed to get, but I actually manifested it. I actually was able to bring it. There
Mm-hmm.
was a red Beamer that I needed for the video.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually left a note on this girl's windshield. And as I was leaving the note about how like your car is perfect and like all this stuff, she comes up to the car actually. She comes up like and it's like, "Hey," like sees me leaving this note on her car. She's like, "Hey, like what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, like actually like I was leaving you this note because your car is just like amazing and I have this music video and actually this girl is singing in it." And come funny enough, she actually knew the girl that was singing in it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like you guys, like I'm down, like you guys you guys can borrow the car for the music video." And it ended up working out like that, which is another interesting actually story, because I at that point in time, this was years ago, I did saturate my mind with that as well. I saturated my mind with the video and everybody being a part of it with this red Beamer, being an integral part of the video. So yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So I think it's important for you to be true to who you are. So my question for you would be this. When you are helping people, coaching people around an SP situation, do you encourage them to continue trying to manifest that specific person, or do you encourage them to manifest that SP or something better? What's your personal method?
Yeah, so that's a good point. With a particular person in mind that I'm thinking of right now, I was open to both. I was open to there was an issue that he had with communication with this person. There was clearly a communication block. She kind of, distance. She took that avoidant approach and kind of just like left the situation. And it seemed to me
Mm-hmm.
with no closure to where he couldn't even understand what the situation was. There wasn't good communication between him and his partner. It was very apparent to me. So I wanted him to get to the bottom of that and say, hey, like, hash it out. Like, what exactly happened here so that we can be on the same page so that I can know. Because, if it's something that we can fix, we can go ahead and address it and like, and, you can get that specific person back, I think. But if it's something where she's just not willing to communicate, or it's something where it's too far gone, she says, you know what, I've just made up my mind, and I'm already seeing somebody else and I've already moved on, or whatever the case, then yeah, like I think that you should be open to that something better possibility. Because while I do think that the universe works in mysterious ways, and even if she is currently seeing somebody else, and even if all these other things are going on, yes, it's probably possible somehow that you can get her back into your life. Why do all that? Like, she's already dropped off the communication. There's already been all this other stuff like going on, and maybe that's an indication that she's not the right person for you. So that was kind
Mm.
of my approach when it came to that situation.
Okay. So you are open to the SP or something better. So
Hmm.
maybe then you do go down the path of allowing it to be the G-Wagon or something better.
Yeah. What's what's funny about that is that when I was trying to get the G-Wagon last summer, um, they were like, "We don't have a G-Wagon, but we actually have a Lamborghini." And so I actually got this Lamborghini. And if anybody if anybody watches the shorts that I post on this channel, they'll have seen the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini makes a few appearances in some of my like short videos, short form content, where it's just kind of like inspiring little like short videos. But that's actually very, very funny that you mentioned that, like the G Wagon or something better, because the Lamborghini is arguably a more expensive, more, you know, it's a supercar. It's like a the Lamborghini Huracan that I got. Anyways, it's definitely like more cost more to rent, as well as more rare of a car, but that's besides the point, I guess. But um I agree with you. Like, I think that it should be assessed on a case by case basis, and I think that in
Hmm.
my case, going on this song and holding on to this particular G Wagon for like over a year is too long. Um,
Oh, has it been over a year? You got a block. What's going on?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is that like I get like that when it comes to creative projects. And so like with this song was ready to be released last summer, 20 of 2022. And
Wow.
during that summer, I was like trying to get the G-Wagon. I couldn't get the G-Wagon. I got the Lamborghini. But I was very particular that I needed a G-Wagon for this video. And so what I think really needs to happen is I need to like let go. I need to, and I'm talking about my song and everything on here, but for the audience that's watching this right now, you guys can really take an understanding from this and my own kind of internal dilemma that I'm going through right now, because this applies to anything. It can apply to so many different things. If you're struggling with something, in the case of this client that I was mentioning before, with his girlfriend, it was also this long drawn out thing. They hadn't had communication for such a long time. And I think like with me in this situation, it illustrates a valid point. Like, you're just like, oh, wow, this has been going on for a year. Like, what's going on? It's like that is the normal reaction, right? To me, I'm like, oh, well, this is like this thing that I'm still like dealing with inside. But to anybody outside of this situation, they're gonna be like, dude, like, come on, like, release this video. Like, what are you
Mm.
doing? Right? Isn't that, I mean, because like it shouldn't be like that. It should be, look, you try to get it to happen. If it doesn't happen within a couple months or however long, that you give yourself a time frame, and then okay, like it didn't happen, so release the song. Because like my partner said, like it's not to say that down the line, if the G-Wagon is available, I can't create a piece of video content to promote it. Nowadays the way people promote music is they'll release a song, they'll put a video, they might do a TikTok or whatever video of them like, hey, this is my new song, I think I just made the song of the summer or whatever. They'll have some like catchy hook, right, to get people to watch the video, and then they'll release a bunch of those. And I think that that's really what's necessary. You've seen, like, I don't know if you
Mm.
pay attention, but to like music that's been released recently. I haven't actually been paying much attention to it as of super recently, but Olivia Rodrigo comes to mind. She was a girl that released a song called Driver's License, and it was released on TikTok. And there've been
Yep.
many cases like her, and now she's like one of the most popular artists. And it's because she just like released a song. I don't think she had any particular video. I actually would be curious to know, with some of these other artists, like what they've done. But I think it's much more of that, like, hey, look, that genuine approach. Like, look, I made this song, guys. Um, this, whatever the approach might be, it might be, oh, like this song actually helped me get through this issue that I was going through, or look, like if you're going through heartbreak right now, take a listen to this, something like that, right? Where it's just like, look, I'm just being genuine. This is my art. I made it. There's that one chick. She made that song "Strangers," and the video is literally her on like a beat machine, and she has like purple hair, and so it's kind of interesting to watch because she's making the beats and as well as singing the song. But that song is like crazy popular right now. Um, it's the song is called "Strangers" by Kenya Grace, I think is her name. I'm not sure
Mhm.
if you recognize that or not, or if anybody watching does, but
Yeah.
it's all over, it's all over social media right now. It's all over. If you go on Instagram, you hear it immediately. The first reel, as soon as you're scrolling, you'll hear that song. But um, with that being said, like, uh, I think this is a sign that I need to drop that song. So
Okay. You know what
yeah,
I would do? I would give it 3 days. Neville talks about the 3 day process, how you can manifest anything in 3 days. I would saturate yourself in the end result of that G Wagon. I would meditate on it morning, noon, and night. And I would really come into that end result, really imagine and visualize this music video with the G-Wagon, how you want it to look, everything. Purely give yourself that 3 days of like reckless abandon where you just throw it, you like go all in. It's just 3 days. If, and then by that third day, I'm sure you will have some sort of clarity. Some sort of clarity will come to you, whether it's a better idea for a better music video without the G Wagon, or it's another idea of getting like another G Wagon. But then decide after that 3 days that you're releasing the music video. Like the plan will be after the 3 days, you give yourself a week to get something together and you get it out there.
yeah, I think that's a
I'll
really good
manifest it with
approach.
you.
Okay,
I'll
awesome.
keep that. Yeah, because I want to see you get it now.
Awesome. Yeah, like I think it'll be dope. I mean, I'm excited. I know like people that have heard the song are like, dude, you gotta release the song. Um, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but I think it's like it needs to be released because it is a piece of music that I really think like does, the various people that have heard when I've played it or whatever, they're like, oh, like this is, you gotta drop this, you gotta release a song. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's true for a lot of people that are creative. There's sometimes you hit on something that will resonate with people, and when you
Mm-hmm.
do, you have to like lean into it. And I know it can be hard. You gotta. I think the approach that you mentioned just now is perfect. It's like a mix of both, because that's what appeals to my logical brain too. It's like I have this vision. I want to honor that vision, and that
Mm-hmm.
may have, and that may it works for everything. It's like it's a mixture of like, because people when they hear about letting go and detaching, they're like, well, I don't want to like completely let go. They're like, I have this thing in mind, and it could be with this specific person, right? Too. It's like no, I want this person. But the approach that you're doing is like it's allowing for those new ideas to come in, that fresh energy to come in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also giving yourself a deadline saying, hey, look, like if I'm not like having this alternative solution here, then I'm going with this plan.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure that you do take action, because taking action is a part of bringing in your goal. And go
And the
ahead.
most important thing after the 3 days, if you don't get a G-Wagon, is that you hold the faith that you will get a G-Wagon, but you still release the song and then
Hmm.
plan to do like a second music video with it, with the
Yeah.
G-Wagon once you get it. But don't give up. Like, don't think of it as a failure if nothing comes through in that 3 days.
Right. Right. And it's important too. I think like another thing, an affirmation that comes to mind for this is like everything is working in my favor. And there
Mm-hmm.
might be, I've heard this described as transitory circumstances, right? Where there might be, let's say this was an example that I actually used recently, but you're on your way to your dream vacation and you get caught in traffic and you actually miss your plane. But then later on, you find out that there was technical difficulties and the plane crashed, right? So
Yeah.
you never really know. You in the moment, you're like, oh, like I might be like, oh my God, I can't get this G wagon. But maybe there is, like you said, room for an even better idea to come in, room for that thing that's actually going to work, that's actually going to like be the spark that causes this song to be wildly successful.
Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, I think what's really going on here, the block that's really going on here, is you're scared of the song failing. So you're wanting to do everything you possibly can think of to make it successful, and to you, that G-Wagon represents that success.
Exactly.
But maybe, what if this? What if you got the G-Wagon and it wasn't as successful as you thought it was going to be? What would that be like for you?
It would be bad, but there'd also be this voice that would come in from the side, from the back, that like devil on the shoulder voice that's like, yeah, well, you know,
You did everything
um,
you could.
well, maybe, yeah, there would be a voice that would say I did everything I could, but there would also be
Yeah.
this insidious voice, that negative voice that's like, well, yeah, it didn't work, like because it wasn't good, or it wasn't good enough to begin with, or because you don't deserve to have success with your music. So no matter what you do, it's not going to work. There would be that type of voice as well, that really like negative voice that would come in. Um, but there would also be on the flip side of that. Well, I've done everything that I could with it, and maybe um, then there would be the other voices that come in with like alternative solutions, or well, what you need to do is you need to follow this up with another song. What you need is consistency. What you need is this or that, right? So there'd be a few different voices swirling around there probably, but um
A lot of pressure on this one song.
yeah, there is pressure on this one song.
And so it's going to be super important that you show up for that part that you were talking about in your solar plexus that's scared of it
Hmm.
failing. And it's going to be super important for you to show up for that and say to it, listen, no matter how this turns out, I've got your back. You're not going to be alone. I'm going to come see you. I'm going to come visit you. You're like, I'm not going to forget about you.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful to just let yourself know, I've got you. I've got your back.
Yeah.
And it's really that idea of reparenting parts that maybe didn't get that kind of parenting to start with. You're trying to show up for yourself in parental ways that maybe you never got, not to say anything about your parents or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just everyone is able to reparent themselves better than what they had.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's crazy because we attach our value of ourself to these things sometimes. Like I heard
Totally.
there's a guy named Joe Vitale, and he has
Yep.
a book, and he in his book Attractor Factor describes something which hit me so hard. I'm like, that is ultimately, I think, why we pursue almost anything in life as human beings. If we're honest with ourselves, he said like, yeah, I wanted to write this book, I wanted to make this money, I want to do all that aside, what I really wanted was to prove to myself that I'm a worthwhile person. And I was just like,
Yeah,
wow, because I think that's why, that's why partly why I want to have success with my music, partly why I want to do all, like a lot of things. Like it stems from that. If you really go deep down to the bottom of it, is to prove that you're a worthwhile person, that you are capable of doing things, and you are somebody who has agency and can make things happen in the world, and be a positive impact, or have a positive influence on others. Um, so it's really, yeah, it's interesting that that's probably a lot of it too, is just like it's tied up with this your self-worth. um
totally, totally.
yeah.
I find that that's why people want to attract an SP as well, as like that it has to be that specific person because they have to prove to themselves that they are like a powerful manifestor. They have to prove to themselves they can have whatever they want. A lot of times it's not even really about that other person. It's just about them trying to prove something to themselves. But that's okay. We're here to be creators. We're here to test things out and to sift and sort through what we want and what we don't want. That's something that Abraham Hicks talks about. And that's okay. I support people who want to manifest something as long as they know what the reason is, as long as they're going in with full awareness.
Mhm.
I say manifest that SP, manifest a new person if you want to, but if you want your specific person, go for it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, and there's so many beautiful things that have been created. Look, we're going to space, we're doing all this stuff as a human species, and yeah, maybe those things actually wouldn't have happened if people weren't motivated by that, to prove to themselves that they can do stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like it's human nature at a certain point. And like you said, if you really want something, you should go for it. And I love, the approach, like I said, that you gave, is just like allowing these other aspects to come in. And one thing I've been doing as well, I mentioned this before about like the Silva meditations. I have his course, and part of that, in that course, they one of the things that you, like, kind of phrases that you say to yourself as you're doing these meditations and getting into this kind of alpha level of mind, which I would liken akin to the state akin to sleep,
Yep.
is to say to yourself, like, I am doing this, I'm receiving knowledge from all parts of the world, all parts of the universe and the solar systems, so that I may use this knowledge for for my benefit, and the benefit of all of humanity, or in the benefit, the greater good. And sometimes like I think that sometimes people are able to actually use that as well, tapping into, say that, look, it's not just about me. Like, I'm doing this because I want to have a positive impact. I'm wanting to do stuff, and for whatever reason, like, there is some power in that as well. I think that can come from that. In I guess, even if even if you want to look at military leaders or people that were able to rally people to their cause, it's like they have a cause, right? It's for this
Hmm.
greater purpose. It's not just for me, or it's not just for this. And kind of like tailoring your thinking to that too, I think, can maybe be helpful for certain things. Maybe it doesn't apply so much to an SP situation as it would to something else, but I did think it was an interesting part that was included in that meditation.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that, like, we covered this at the beginning, that when you experience kind of self-doubt or different dilemmas, like for you personally, you use that parts in that communication. That tends to be like your chosen tool.
Absolutely. I go inward. I try to do it on a daily basis just to kind of get in there and listen to my different parts, see what's coming up. I fully believe in everything that Neville talks about. I am such a huge Neville fan, but I think where parts could be added and pieces are missing is really working on like a wounded subconscious. When we're working with a wounded subconscious, we have to come in and do the healing work around that in order to manifest what we're trying to manifest. And that I have a course, and that's what the course does is it removes the emotional blocks in the first part of the course so that in the second part of the course, you can manifest what it is you want to manifest.
Awesome.
hmm And so that's kind of what we talked about with your song as well, is just kind of looking at that fear of failure and working with those parts. I think if you're doing that parts work in this next 3 days, if you take that kind of 3 day challenge, I
Mhm.
think you're going to get a lot of movement. If you can work with that part in your solar plexus and saturate yourself in the end results, I think you can get what you're looking for.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's cool that you have a course. So the course, it really goes into, you said, getting rid of those, like, and it healing kind of essentially those parts of yourself that feel whatever that might be. They feel that, this the struggle or the intensity of the feeling they feel,
Yeah.
and then from there, like going into and saturating the consciousness. I think that's a good, because essentially, like, whatever path you're taking, it's like stabilizing yourself is, and your nervous system is so crucial, because you can't continuously be in this kind of fight or flight state and really sustainably bring in goals that you want into your life. I don't think it's very possible. I think that
True.
you can probably have some success manifesting some things, and maybe in the short term, but if you're in this type of state where you're just constantly, it's not going to be sustainable. I don't think, in my opinion. So yeah, super valuable. I mean, if there's anything else, I guess I'm trying to think if there's any other questions I have for you. Um,
Well, no worries. If you come up with any more questions, we can always do a part two and come back to it
for
and
sure.
see. I would be super curious to see. I would be super curious to do part two after you make the music video and release it. Then we work on it, we come back and we look at how you're dealing with it, whether it went well or not as well as you hoped it would go.
Yeah, that
And
would be interesting.
that would be, I think
That'd
your
be cool.
viewers would probably love it.
Yeah, that would
It
be
would be
awesome.
hard
And
for you though. It would be exposing for sure.
it would be fun, but I like it. I like opening up with people about this, because I actually don't talk about my music that much. I
hmm
think I've opened up here on this conversation more than I actually have in any like video that I've posted, probably, because to me it's like a thing about me, and it's I want to kind of help people on this channel, address and reprogram their mindset, and whatever you would like to call it, just like work on their internal blocks, kind of much the same way that you do. But I feel like if I talk about my music, it's just kind of me talking about myself and like my the things that I seem to have some blocks with. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be helpful to people, but I do think that it can be useful for me to open up and say, because look, any of these people that you watch online, even Neville himself, had things that in life that he struggled with. I mean, nobody's perfect, right? And so just
hmm
because somebody has a good grip and handle on certain areas of their life doesn't mean that every single part of their life is like this perfect thing, where they don't ever have like things that they are going on internally. And it can be, I think it can be just inspiring to see somebody else that you may like. For using myself as an example, I'm discussing mindset like all the time, and it is therapeutic for me, for myself as well, um, to do that and to share that with people and to get a conversation going. And I think this part of myself where I want to be open with it with people, so that people can see the growth, can see the journey that I've taken as far as like when it comes to this.
hmm
And that'll be good for people to see, I think.
I think so too. It would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been an awesome conversation, Melissa. I appreciate uh, your working with me on that. And then just everything that you've had to say when it comes to attachment styles. I think it's really interesting how those also can be applied towards general things going on in some like other goals as well, not just relationships.
100%.
And the ability to you know, through doing what you described, the inner work, how that then allows you and opens up the space for you to then have that secure attachment. And essentially what we're going for me is to have a secure attachment with my music, right? That's
Yes,
what
exactly.
so it's like
And
I want, yeah, go ahead.
well, that the course is called the Attachment Recovery Program, and it's not
Hmm.
just for people who are trying to manifest a relationship. It's for people like you too who are wanting to manifest a secure attachment to your music, and people who are wanting to manifest a secure attachment to money. So it's about removing those emotional blocks in the first part, and then of course in the second part, manifesting it and having it really come in. So I like to apply the attachment theory to everything in life, not just relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a super useful approach. Like I said, I mean, from hearing it, I was like, this is really ringing a bell for me because, that's what I see with people is like they're either in this avoidant paradigm or in that anxiously attached place. And I see it with myself in regards to my music, which is why I think it's very helpful to kind of hash it out and use it to kind of unravel like what's really going on here. Because a lot of people talk about relationships, and relationships are very important. I think that they're probably one of the most important things.
Mhm.
But it is curious to me how these things just like are at play when it comes to anything. It's crazy to me. And anyways, I'd be interested, and for sure, I'm excited to give this a try, going in internally and trying out this practice for myself. So, like I said, Melissa, I appreciate your time here. Would love to circle back and do an interview here again later after I've kind of gone through this process and maybe here in a month or so down the road and see how it goes.
That would be awesome. I'll be so excited to hear the song.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited as well. Well, thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna leave Melissa's information down below so you can check her out as well as her course. I'm sure, and I know that it's definitely valuable information that she has on her website as well. So, with that being said, everyone, thank you for watching. Tune
Thank
into her as well. You have a YouTube channel as well, right?
Well, I
But
like to just
it's
direct people to my website,
your website.
attachmentrecovery.com. And so you can download a free download on attachment trauma, and then it takes you to my calendar where you can book a free 15-minute call to see if we would be a match for each other. So
Perfect. Yeah.
attachmentrecovery.com.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Much love as always. Hit this with a like, hit me with a subscribe if you have not done so already, and we will see you in the next video.